I tell you that nothing so depressive like you send a message to someone who is owing you and the person did not reply you. You call him or you call her and the person quits your call or do not pick your call or do not call you back. Do you know that nothing is wrong to borrow money from friends? Anything can happen to anybody that will lead into borrowing. But everything is wrong with the attitude after borrowing. May I tell you that I have seen so many families, relatives that borrowing separated their relationship. In today's episode, I want to share with you 6 reasons why people will not help you or borrow you money when you are in need. Why am I bringing this thing here is because many people have told me that they find it difficult to borrow money from people. But when you sit down and discuss with them, you see that in this reason, they fall into any of it. Grab your pen, grab your paper, and let's journey together. Number 1, if you don't pay when you promise to pay. I've seen so many people that borrowed money from friends, families, even enter into business with some business partners, agreed to pay on a certain date. But what happened? When the time comes, they don't pay the time they promised they will pay. May I tell you that whenever you don't pay the time you promised to pay, you are making the other person not to trust you anymore. You are tarnishing your integrity. Of course, something may happen that you don't pay as you promised, but nothing like calling the person to tell the person, please, I remembered I am owing you and I'm supposed to pay you on so and so day. Please give me more time. It's very important that you communicate with the person. Number 2, never you ever avoid the person you are owing. I've seen so many scenarios whereby someone begin to avoid the person he is owing. You may not have the money, you may not have paid as you promised, but that does not mean that you should stop picking his call. That does not mean you should stop replying his or her messages. That does not mean that you should change your route because you don't want to see him or you don't want to see her. May I tell you that nothing so depressive like you send a message to someone who is owing you and the person did not reply you. You call him or you call her and the person quits your call or do not pick your call or do not call you back. May I tell you that this attitude may block the blessings for you in future, and also you are blocking another person that this person could have helped when they are in need. Please, if you are owing someone, when they call you, please pick your call, reply their messages, but never you ever start to avoid them. It's very, very bad that when somebody call you because you are owing the person, even in business, you go into business with somebody and the business do not work out. That it doesn't work out does not mean you should start to avoid the person. Do your best to communicate with the person, to pick your calls, to reply his messages, but never you ever avoiding the person. Number 3 is what I call bad mouth and wide mouth. What did I mean by this? There are some people when they are in need, they will pretend as if they are dying. But after you borrow them this money, their mouth became wide. In this one, I have experienced it with a friend. I borrowed money to a friend, and when I called her to pay the money, she said something that shocked me. She told me that even federal government is still owing. Why should I disturb her because of such amount? Imagine that. What is my business between federal government? When you borrow the money, do you go through federal government? For you, you may not use federal government as she used, but you may use bad mouth. Some people will say, why are you giving me sleepless night? Is it because of this little money that I borrowed you? Are you the only one that I am owing? All this bad mouth is very bad when it comes to borrowing. Please, whenever you borrowed money from people, Don't use bad mouth. Don't open your mouth wide. If you know that mouth you use to borrow the money, because I remembered whenever people want to borrow money, there are emotion attached to it. The way they will talk, the way they will speak to you on phone, the way they will come to you, there are a lot of emotion. Why don't you use the same emotion that you borrowed the money and paid the money? Never you ever try to use bad mouth to repay the person that borrowed you money. Before we continue, my YouTube friend, please don't forget to subscribe if you have not yet done that. Like this video, share in the comments if you have experienced anyone that did this to you, and also don't forget to share to friends. Let's form a community. Number 4, never you ever exaggerate or lie whenever you want to borrow money from friends or family. I've seen so many people whenever they are in need, they want to borrow money from anyone, they exaggerate the need, they lie. For example, someone came to a friend of mine and said, please, my mom have a chronic disease. I need money to take her to hospital. You know, when you hear this kind of thing, as human being, you will not deny or delay not to help this person, because when it comes to health, someone needs to help. But do you know what happened? This lady pulled money and gave to her. But this lady took the money and traveled abroad. Never you ever exaggerate or lies if you are in need. This will help the person to know how much he or she can give you. Because the moment you exaggerate or lie, if the person find out, honestly, the person will not help you anytime you are in need. Number 5. Never you ever assume that the person do not need the money at the moment. I've seen so many scenarios where people borrowed money from friends and family and they refuse to pay because they assume that this person is rich. He doesn't need it at this moment. Let me still be using the money. Please, anybody that has his or her money need it at any moment. You are not the one that's supposed to tell the person when he or she need to use the money. If you have the money, please pay. Don't assume that because you see that he is doing well financially, he don't need the money. You are tarnishing your image. It makes you to reduce your integrity. Last but not the least is, if you have never helped anyone, may I tell you that the reason why people do not borrow money to people or do not help you when you are in need is because you have never helped them. Of course, it might not be financial help, but nothing like support. When friends and family are doing something, do you support them? Do you support them with the little you have? Do you support them with your presence? Do you support them with your contribution? Do you support them by visiting them? If people notice that you never help them, you never support them, may I tell you that it will be difficult for them to borrow you money or to help you when you are in need. So in this episode, I want to encourage you, not to condemn you. If you find yourself that you own someone and you are avoiding that person, you don't want to pick the call of the person, you are using wide mouth, please sit down and think about it. Pick your phone, call the person and tell the person to give you more time in a nice voice. Nothing so sweet like a nice voice. Thank you so much. We have come to the end of this episode. I hope you have learned a lot from this episode. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe if you have not yet done that, and I will see you in another episode.